Yeah, I on my end, I have not, on my end, I have not reached out to the necessary folks to get us an upgraded Zoom account. So now
Oh,
I have to meticulously like figure out how to edit that to. Yeah.
oh, okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Student Media Podcast. This is what are we on now? Episode 5. Yeah, episode 5. He's keeping track. Apparently, I am not. I'm Evan Couch, joined by Deacon Tuttle as always, and we have the great, well-known Terri Reddout with us today. Everyone's favorite professor.
Oh, you're darn right.
Welcome to the show, Terry. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. But I need to ask, why was I not in show 1? Why am I stuck at show 5?
That is because you are a hard person to nail down.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to go through your team. I had to reach out to your assistant just to get your phone number. And then once I got your assistant's phone number, I had to talk to your PR person just to get a possible meeting with you, even though I see you in class every day.
Oh, okay. Well, it's good to know that my team's working well.
Well, everyone likes a good mid-season finale too. We got to entice our viewers to stick on.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll have you know that you got the most fan engagement when it comes to asking questions. So
It's true.
there you go.
No kidding.
That's because people know who you are, you know.
Oh.
Name Terri, the name Terri
Oh,
in the media department. It
mhm.
brings up a lot of things.
Okay. I'm kind of afraid now.
No, no. Just I would be remiss not to ask because Noah wanted me to ask Noah, right? First
Okay.
question off the bat, he said, "What hair product do you use?" And he's like, "A great icebreaker question for her." And I was like, "Okay, I'll ask her just for you."
Let's see. I use Kendra hairspray, and I don't know what kind of goo I use. It's just
Well,
the goo I've had for a while.
I mean, if you've seen Noah's hair, he had a pretty nice flow going. So I think he actually wanted to know for his own benefit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Well, Noah's hair.
Yeah.
better than mine, I'll tell you that.
Oh, you always got a beanie on,
I always wear the beanie. I always got to
Yeah.
have. But let's just get right into it. My first question, and this is actually like an actual question that I did want to ask.
Okay.
Still have the jacket that you always talk about when you talk to your media classes and your comm classes. You told the story. Do you want to tell the story real quick about the green jacket? I believe it was green jacket. Let's see if I can get you on.
Oh, the teal color jacket.
Teal jacket. That's what it was.
Yeah. I worked. Go ahead.
I was just saying green and teal are the same thing. He's over here giving me a
Yeah,
hard.
no. I just remembered as the teal color jacket. I think this is the story you're looking at. I did a 3-part hard-hitting series on how medical malpractice insurance impacts the kind of care that you get. And I really nailed this sucker. I mean, I just had it down awesome. It was the best work I'd ever done. And I went to the mall and somebody stopped me and said, "Oh, I've been watching your series about medical malpractice." And I said, "Well, thank you. I think that's just awesome that you're watching." And then they leaned in and said, "That teal jacket that you wore in the second segment was just beautiful." And yeah, it's a compliment. Yeah, not what I was looking for, but
Swing and a miss.
you just smile and say, "Gosh, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it."
When she turned around and walked away, did you kind of mutter something under your breath at her?
Oh, yeah. You know me well.
We need that quote.
I probably did some obscured finger gestures as well.
It's good.
Well,
that's good.
I mean, I wanted to ask you, like, obviously you have a very decorated past when it comes to broadcast and journalism, because you talked about it all the time. Anyone who's ever had a class with you, we've had a lot of insight to the world that is Terri, and a lot with like your personal life as well. I just wanted to ask how, like, did your childhood influence anything when it comes to where you are now in teaching media, but also working in broadcasts and doing all the work that you've done in your past?
Absolutely. I grew up in a cherry orchard, oldest of 5 kids. Um, Gosh, responsibility and hard work were just kind of built into the DNA type of thing. You just work and you get the job done. And if there are obstacles in the way, you still get the job done, type of thing. And I think it just grounded me and made me really, when I teach, I try to be pragmatic. I try to make it information that people could actually use as opposed to just think about, type of thing. And I think that's been a huge influence along the way. I know when they asked me to teach one of the public speaking classes, I said, I'm not going to teach rhetoric. And they said, no, we don't want you to teach rhetoric. We want you to teach how to give a speech. Mm-hmm. And that's what I can do.
What would you say for giving speeches is like one thing that people usually don't think about? Like maybe they think about, oh, the tone of voice or how long you draw things out. What's something that people often underlook that is crucial to giving a good speech?
They practice and practice because I force them to practice. But they forget to practice the ending. Mm. They just, they start from the beginning and then they run out of speed and then they back up and they start from the beginning and that kind of thing. And then when they actually get in class and they've made it to the end, and then all of a sudden the conclusion is sitting there in front of them and they're just, I don't know what to say. The speech is going along beautifully and then it gets to the conclusion and they kind of stumble over the end.
What aspects of, obviously, you've worked in broadcast for so long and you teach mm-hmm. broadcast journalism, and you're kind of you're the supervisor for CNW.
Right.
What do you like so much more about broadcast compared to print media, or say media like this where it's a little more free flowing and it's like a conversation?
Oh, that's true. What I liked about broadcast, and I can't compare it to print or this, but what I can tell you I did like about broadcast is that every day was a new day.
Right.
Every day you had, one day you might be working with the governor. The next day you might be interviewing, some kid who won a prize, that kind of stuff. I stood next to a surgeon during open heart surgery and asked him, what's this like? And he says, oh, it's just plumbing. I shook hands with killers. I got to go hot air ballooning, every day was something new. And then the other part about it is that at the end of the day, your day was over and you start anew the next day. As much as I love teaching, there is always papers to grade.
Yeah.
Always. Always. And it's there all the time, no matter how hard I work or how much I goof off, it's always there.
What would you say is the most memorable story, maybe for a good reason or a bad reason, that you worked on?
I think the most memorable story I ever did was a gentleman who had been named the Retired Senior Volunteer of the Year. Now, you wouldn't think that'd be much of a story. Well, I met the guy. The volunteer income tax assistance. He had more tax forms filled out for people, like 50% more than anybody else. When he went to the alcohol rehab center to do fix-it work at the rehab center, he refused to turn in receipts from Home Depot, because he just wanted to volunteer. And then what was incredible about this guy is the first time he had come to Idaho Falls was as a POW during World War II. He was a German POW. And he loved Idaho Falls. He loved being imprisoned along the Idaho Falls, that he decided to come back after World War II and make Idaho Falls his home. And so he's had this huge, thick German accent.
Ask about that.
Yeah, it was, and still, to that day. And then the other thing was that that had nothing to do with volunteer. He would show up at the bus station and greet people as they got off the bus and said, here's where the telephone is, because this was before cell phones. Here's where the payphone is. Here's how you get a taxi. And he said in his German accent, sometimes he would take people, put them in his car and take them, where they needed to go. And this part of this question and this answer didn't end up in the story, but I asked him, Wilhelm, when you put people in your car, aren't you a little concerned about your safety? And he said, well, no, because I have a loaded gun under my seat. So, and what the topper was, he had a bad heart, he was blind in one eye, and had a wooden leg. And this guy is volunteering.
That is crazy.
That is the craziest story I've ever done.
Could you imagine being in prison somewhere against your will and then deciding to go back there and make your life there because you're like, you know what? I love it there. It's actually.
It's like, gosh, I was in prison in the Hanoi Hilton. I think I'll go back.
Yeah.
Oh my. Wow. That is a crazy story.
Yeah.
Well,
one of my favorites.
Well, with Evan and I being the co-host of the Student Media Podcast, which is something we'll probably get back to a little bit later, we might need a name change. So maybe you can recommend some stuff for us.
Okay.
But we tend to cover Observer and Pulse, but we haven't done that much of Central News Watch besides having on before. So with you on the show, there's a great opportunity to explore that. And we know that it's on a break right now.
They're on hiatus.
Yeah. What do you want to see from CNW when it returns?
Well, it's going to be a challenge because everybody's going to be new. I have no management, no returning people. I graduated so many people in the spring that I have nobody coming back. So that's going to be a challenge, but every quarter is a challenge. It's something new. Maybe we only have one person with experience and 10 without, or maybe we've got 10 people with experience and only 2 people without, and so that changes how we're going to cover the news and what kind of stories we're going to do, that type of thing. So it's always a challenge, something new. I'd love to see our numbers on our Facebook page grow. I'd love to see the numbers on our YouTube page grow. I'm not a huge fan of Instagram or Twitter, but I'm not in that demographic. So, I'd love to see us reach out on Instagram and Twitter and pull more people in, because that's more the.
Like, are you really looking for? Because obviously the world has shifted so much towards social media nowadays. And it's like, it's broadcast journalism, but in a sense, you could somehow modify it, right, to fit onto those platforms and actually work really well on those platforms, because you got things like Instagram stories, reels, obviously TikTok. I hate TikTok, and I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah,
but
No, let's not.
Yeah, exactly. Let's not. Let's make a pact right now that we
Fine by me,
when we get in there. But obviously,
this is a no tic-tac zone.
How do you fit that in nowadays with just creating good stories in broadcast journalism, but for the modern era?
Yeah, that is a challenge because what Instagram can do is different from what Facebook can do, is different from what Twitter can do. But I've seen each of them used. I saw a Twitter feed once where a woman was going live and she said, "See that woman behind me in the black dress? She's going to get an award she didn't know she was getting. We'll have the story tonight," and that was it. Boom, quick and dirty, and definitely grab people's attention and let them know what was coming up, that kind of thing. In the past, we've done Facebook, live type things, and they just go around the newsroom on Monday night and ask people, "What are you working on?" And it's very conversational, and just, hey, Evan, what kind of story are you working on? And then you'd tell us, and then we'd move on and say, hey, Deacon, what you covered the basketball game this weekend, what's going on, that kind of thing. And I can see the appeal to that. I think everybody likes that behind the scenes kind of feel that certain social media can do.
I
And
think
definitely, Instagram, you can be out on a story and shoot 3 pictures and put it up on Instagram and let people know what's going on. In fact, that's kind of the new move, is that we don't have deadlines. The deadlines are happening all the time.
right. But like if there's something that's obviously like breaking news, do you usually try to have a crew that's on it right away, or at least one student who's trying to get it out as quick as possible?
It would be lovely to say, yes, we're on it all the time, but sometimes you guys have to go to classes. And sometimes, instructors aren't as lenient as I am. If you come and say, I got a news story, I'm going to say, bye, type of thing. But, maybe your chem professor isn't that lenient, type of thing. But I was talking about it this morning when we had that fake active shooter on campus a couple of years ago. My team really got on it. We ended up communicating with each other, and somebody said, well, should we go to campus? And one of the guys, who was an offensive lineman, he said, my mom will shoot me if I go to campus. And I got on and said, guys, you are not getting paid enough to go on campus, when we're in active shooter mode.
I don't think anyone gets paid enough to be honest, throw that out there. No one gets paid enough to be.
Nobody gets paid enough. I don't care who you are, but they get no pay. But even if you got paid, I don't think you're getting paid enough. Anyway, but as soon as it was cleared, we had people out there. They were out there getting interviews with the university president, with kids that were locked down in the circ, all sorts of things. They were just right on it. And even we had a couple of people that were locked down in the circ. And we're all in this message group, and we asked, well, do you feel comfortable shooting video? And they said, yeah, no problem. And so they shot video, and we posted the first one, and then decided after that not to post anymore, because if there was an active shooter, it would give them information as to where people were,
right?
That kind of thing. But everybody was in news mode and was doing what they could to get the story done. I mean, we passed on alerts from the campus police, that kind of thing. And frankly, that night, it was, 3 or 4 years ago. And that night we had 1,500, I just sent out an email saying we had 1,500 followers on our Facebook page. A woman from ROTC stepped in my door and said, are you sheltering, or are you leaving campus? And I said, why? And she said, there's an active shooter. I almost knocked her down getting out of the building. And I got home and I didn't have my phone. And that's why we had all the messaging and everything. But 1,500 people at the beginning of the evening. At the end of the evening, like 4.5 hours later, we had 2,500.
Oh, wow.
And that was such an eye-opener for me and the students, because it said we were a source, a news outlet that they could count on to get information. And I was so proud of my people that night, because we heard about the helicopters landing outside the circ, and how there were the shooters. There was 2 shooters, and they're going up to LNI, and there's just rumors going everywhere. And none of my guys suggested that we publish those rumors. We only published the facts, things we knew for sure. And it was kind of gratifying, because Como over in Seattle actually did publish one of the rumors.
That's cool.
Did they put out there saying that it was alleged, or did they actually say it as fact?
they broadcasted as fact. And I think it was that there was a helicopter on campus landing.
Wow. I don't even know how they get that information. I mean, obviously it gets out so quickly, but it's like, you know, they don't have people on campus, you know, they don't have reporters there. So it's like,
no, they're just basing it off of social media reports and, you know, really bad connections to police scanners.
I think you might have one-upped the our national broadcast system there on that one. So look at Terry's team doing all the hard work, and that's
we're
really
carrying it all.
I don't know. Have you guys had anything, not necessarily to that level, but have you had any stories where maybe you guys have gotten some backlash for putting out in the last couple of years, where, you know, obviously at the Observer, it seems like every other week someone has a problem with something, and kind of, it happens, and we understand that. But have you guys had any major backlash for any stories that you've released?
You know, I think just the nature of the beast, that you guys or the Observer is going to have more kind of that kind of thing than CNW, because CNW, they have to be on camera.
Right.
You know, they are involved in it. They're aware of what's going on, you know, and so they're less likely to say, well, no, you didn't do that. Well, no, I've got it right here on video, you know, type of thing. So I think there's less opportunity for that kind of moaning and groaning going on. We did last spring, the school district was not closing down, but moving the librarians out of the libraries and putting them into the classroom. And they were just going to use the libraries as media centers. We got invited in by some concerned parents and the librarians to come in and do a story. And we did the story, and on the way out, the bell rang, and one of my reporters took video of kids walking in the hallway. Wow. You're not supposed to do that. You know, I mean, we could argue it legally, but generally you don't do that. The school district got all over us because we put 1.5 seconds of kids in the hallway in the story. Oh my, they were really angry and yelling and everything else. But the problem is that I don't think this is my opinion, I don't think they were really worried about that 1.5 seconds of kids. They were worried about this story about the libraries going through another news cycle. They didn't want the story about the librarians and everything going through another news cycle. They accused us of sneaking into the school. You know, no, if you've ever been into a junior high, you know you don't sneak in. They had to go in, check in with the front office, you know, they got patted down, everything. So
I mean, well, my high school, when I was in high school, it might have been a little bit different. And the fact that we got away with that as often as we did is astonishing to me, especially in the world we live in. We have like so there's like the front of our high school, and obviously, you know, you got the receptionists and you've got the office ladies who work up there. So you go check in through them. But we have like this back door where the parking lot is, and that's where everyone comes in the morning to go to school. No one uses the front door. We had a rock in that thing to keep it open the entire school day. And they always told us not to do it. They're like, it's pretty obvious why you shouldn't be doing this. And we're like, yeah, we know, but it's Darrington. Yeah, you know, nothing's gonna happen. But
I had the same thing in my back door. And I think our high schools or junior high area was probably the same size too. So I understand that.
If anyone wanted to sneak
that boulder, right by the track.
If anyone wanted to sneak in, it would have been pretty easy. So thank God that didn't happen. They're a little more gone about it now, I'm pretty sure. I think we were the last one. I think they hated us for it. So we're like, once these guys are gone, make sure it doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
But I have a question about that with the filming with the kids and whatnot. If it was a different, you know, if you took a different angle or you used a different shot in the story, Was it because it had just children in general, or is it because it was showing faces of children? What if you were to get a really low angle shooting of just kids, like their feet, just walking down the
Yeah,
hall?
no, that's totally fine, you know, as long as you can't identify anything. But in that 1.5 seconds, one of the kids went like this. And so you got a little bit of a profile. Was it enough to identify them? No. Do the kids have to, or their parents sign waivers? Was that kid on a waiver? And, you know, we didn't have anything to worry about. Nobody checked into it. They just said you were shooting kids.
Gotcha.
Shooting video of kids, not shooting kids.
Go again.
And you know, it was a really good lesson learned. You know, yeah, we can go out there and start shooting video of kids anytime we want, you know, if we want to piss people off. But is that really what we want to do? Or do we want to cover the news?
Right.
So we apologized and edited that video out, put something else in, and left the story up.
Like it's all you can do at that point. You know, you can only backtrack so far once these things are published.
Right.
Obviously, no harmful intent. Why would there be? So it's like all you can say is sorry and hope that they accept that, because you know, we're as reporters, we're not trying to put anyone in danger. You know, we're trying to do the complete opposite, is show people what's going on. So
despite what we would believe.
No, I agree with you. I mean, there was, to quote something from our First Amendment class, there was an absence of malice with that.
Exactly.
So,
well, I think it's time to transition to one of our fans' favorite sections, which would be feeling the pulse, everyone. So we've got some great questions from our audience for you, Terri.
Okay.
The first one comes from Salty Buckets. Do you know who this is?
Yeah, this is Star.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
The question says, does she miss me?
Oh, freaking yes.
Yes.
Okay, and I said freaking, not the other word.
Freaking
So.
yes.
I'm in charge of editing this production here, so
we'll just throw a bleep.
I've got a lot of power in there. If we ever have
okay. Well, just put a bleep in there so it sounds like I said it.
Yeah, exactly. But she says, just kidding. I'd actually ask her, what gets you out of bed every day?
Oh, alarm clock.
That's the practical one, but
yeah, that is the practical one. You know, having done this for so many years, sometimes I wonder, you know, is there's going to be something new that happens today? And you know, sometimes it's harder to drag myself out of bed than others. You know, Monday mornings are tough, but I show up for class, and like our class this week in First Amendment, the cases that they argued and the way they did it and the kind of revelations that they showed was just amazing to me, and really showed that they got this, they understood it, and were, you know, processing it, and that's always rewarding when you see that.
I would agree, but I don't think what gets me out of bed in the morning, it's not my alarm clock, because I have to snooze it like 3 times.
Oh, I hit the snooze.
Yeah.
I have my alarm clock set so I can hit the snooze 5 times.
But I think you have a great point there, and I think that just comes from the passion, right? Like, am I wrong in saying that it's just you find that passion to do something every single day, and you're so engaged, especially with your students, and trying to make sure that they're actually learning what you're teaching instead of just throwing lessons out.
Yes.
So it's like when you see students like Deacon and I, you know, going up there and actually taking part in the debates, that's almost like your gratification that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing, and you're doing your job as well.
Yeah. No, whenever you guys do something amazing like that, yeah, I'm thrilled, but it's also a reflection on I must be doing something right.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing. So
the next question comes from Joyful Opera.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We're not used to throwing the names in there. I don't know what this is all about, but this one, what is your best advice when conducting a job search? And I do think that's an important question, because it seems like that's a tough thing that everyone has to go through nowadays. And it seems like it's harder now than it was before.
Yeah. Well, It depends. Are you talking about a job search broadcast wise, or?
Sure. Let's narrow it down, and we'll say
Okay.
you're in media specifically and broadcast media. What would be like? What would that be like?
Used to be when I was your age, when you applied for their job, there was 130 other people applying for the same job.
Right.
Now, not so much so. And part of it is because the broadcast industry hasn't kept up salary wise. And they're offering a pittance, I mean, you could leave here and get hired at, if you're really good, you're getting hired at 32 grand a year. Well,
That was a shock.
PR students are, the PR students are going out at 40 grand a year, type of thing. So that's the reality of broadcast. But I mean, in part, because of the reputation of this program, and the reputation's been built on the students who have left here and gone into the business, and that reflects back on us, that honestly, I get calls all the time. Hey, Terri, we need a reporter. We need a producer. Do you have somebody who can TD? That kind of stuff. So for me, it's helping people find broadcast jobs is not so hard, only because we're so good and they're so desperate. They'll take it. Can they walk and talk and chew gum? Well, let's say 2 out of 3 will take them.
You heard it here, folks. 60% ratio, you're good.
Have a class with Terri, she will get you a job.
Yes.
That is.
That's no guarantee. I mean, you have to be. If I'm going to recommend you, I'm not going to just recommend anybody. I'm going to recommend somebody that I feel can really do it and has shown me they can do it.
Right.
I had one guy come in. He was a senior about to graduate. And he said, okay, explain to me once again, what's the difference between a VO and a package? And
I can tell you the difference.
I could too. We both took the same class.
It was just like, okay, that's something you should know within week 2. You should really know that. And then I just went and told him.
I'm not recommending this guy.
Telling him. And then he came, I can't believe it, but he came in later that evening and he said, hey, Terri, I'm applying for a job. Would you be a reference for me?
Did you say no?
I said no.
Oh.
I said, I don't think that you want me to be a reference for you. I'll be a reference, but I don't think you'll like what I say.
You have to do what you have to do. I mean,
yeah.
No. Well, I'm not going to put some, recommend somebody that's an idiot, for a job, because then people go, oh my gosh, you sent us an idiot. It was a bad thing.
Yeah.
And
that all right.
I mean, the people who have hired from me or from here, know that I'm not going to send them somebody that's not right. In fact, there's a couple of people that, I love them to death, but one guy was annoying as hell. But annoying in a good way. He would be so annoying about details. Mm-hmm. Well, the job they were hiring him for was very detail oriented. I said, he will annoy you, but he'll annoy you in a good way because he's finding all these little details that are wrong. And there was another gal, I said, if you're looking for somebody to just say, yes, boss, and turn around and do stuff, you don't want to hire her. She's going to ask you why. She's going to suggest ways to do it better. And, so if that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for a yes, ma'am, yes, sir type of thing, you don't want to hire her. So,
well,
anyway, I'm pretty honest, and it's paid off. Well, at KHQ in Spokane, part of Coles Media, which has stations in Montana and in Yakima and the Tri-Cities, they have hired so many Central people over the last 5 years that they refer to them as the Central Mafia.
Wow.
They have a name.
They got a whole
They
title.
have a name for it, Central Mafia, and we're considered like the farm team to Cole's Media.
Nice.
Wow.
That's
So,
good.
yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Well, we're coming down to our final minutes here, so I think this is a
Okay.
great way to cap off the show. Is that we have this running joke and narrative line through our show that that Evan and I have been evading Central News Watch because it's out of our comfort zone, for lack of a better, and we're worried about that. So, what advice can you give us before we take that class inevitably with you, and what kind of roles do you think would fit for us? Like, how can we best operate in that framework?
You are not alone. I mean, a lot of people put CNW off till the end, and then they kick themselves because it turns out to be really fun. Yeah, it's hard work, and yeah, you have to put in some extra hours, and yeah, not just me, but if we have management veterans here, they're going to say no, go back, fix that. That kind of stuff. And you're going to hate it right at first, and you're going to feel overwhelmed right at first, and you're just going to go, why am I in this class, type thing. And if you aren't feeling that way, then you're not doing the class the right way. Right. We are throwing so much information at you so quickly, and we may throw information at you that you won't run it, you won't need that information for another 2 weeks, but we may not have thrown something at you that you needed that week, that kind of stuff. So it's crazy. We haven't lost anybody, no deaths, no injuries, that kind of thing. So, I mean, people survive. But I understand that it is kind of scary, and it's, when you write for the Observer, you need to run a computer, maybe your phone recorder. That's it.
Right.
And then you type something up. Here, you've got to figure out how to make your phone work so that it'll be broadcast quality. You have to figure out how to get a mic in there. You have to shoot with a tripod. Then when you get back, we're going to tell you, no, you shot that interview wrong. You need to do it this way. And the next time you'll go out and you'll do it. And then you have to sit down and write your stories. And you can't just write. You have to write to the video. Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say, I was just writing you guys an email. You need to give me a countdown if you want me to come off on.
Like a hard out, like we're on the radio. But the thing is when it gets down to 1 minute, it cuts away.
Stops,
so I don't know how much time.
Oh my gosh.
So if I don't see when it cuts to the 1 minute mark, I don't know how much time we have.
Evan and I were both like, what?
I was like,
how are we going to end this?
Like
maybe you could just talk over me wandering, yammering along. She kept talking.
Out of audio track. Yeah. We briefly lost connection here. We had a power outage in our apartment. But okay. We were going on talking about like the process with CNW and what roles we would fit in. So
yeah, no, I can definitely. One of the things that the strength of what we do is we train everybody to do everything.
Right.
What that means is that we aren't going to have super smooth newscasts or, that kind of thing. There's some schools where you come in the class and you're going to anchor all quarter long. You're going to run camera 2 all quarter long. You're going to, run teleprompter all quarter long. Well, that ends up making for really smooth newscasts because everybody's doing what they know how to do. But you leave there and you don't know how to do what the guy sitting next to you is doing. And that's one of the things that news directors have told me over and over and over again is that, they leave here and we know, we're not going to want them to run studio camera, but they understand why, what studio cameras have to do and how to help them get their job done. I'll tell you a story. My mom came and watched me do a newscast once, and she was in the control room. And this, 20-year-old kid goes on the headset and tells the floor director, have Terri turn to camera 2. Well, I went, you know, and stuff. And my mom just started seething because this 20-year-old was ordering me around, and I was just following those orders. And I thought, Mom, I had to do it because he's having me turn to camera 2 so that when I do turn to camera 2, this shot is set up so I'm in the screen, you know. So he's doing that, and I'm going to work with him so that I look good, you know, type of thing. He's not ordering me around. We're just trying to get this show to look the best it can. So if that means I have to turn to camera 2, I'm going to turn to camera 2.
Do you like Anchorman? Like, is that actually like a favorite movie?
That's a great question.
I think I worked for Ron Burgundy. Honest to God, this guy wore white shoes to work every day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. I know Ron Burgundy's, the guys that will just read whatever the hell is on the teleprompter. You know, they don't kind of see the big picture. They just are tunnel visioned into it, you know, and they would say, you know, what Ron said for people to do in San Diego. You know, I mean, it would just go, and then they'd just go. So how much time do you guys have?
Oh, I mean, we got
okay. The time's not a good. Okay. One time I was doing weather, and the co-anchor and I have to crosstalk. You know, you talk to each other on camera, and then I would go over to the weather board type of thing. Well, in our crosstalk, I turned to him and said, Jay, you know, last year about this time, you and I were talking about how great our tomatoes were growing. And he says, yeah. And I said, well, this year the summer's not quite as hot. And I don't know about you, but my tomatoes just aren't as good this year. And it wouldn't have been as funny, except that he leaned back and he said, well, Terri, I think you've got great tomatoes. Oh.
Oh my gosh.
You could hear the control room completely lose it. The camera operators had to turn their backs and put their faces up against the wall so they could smother their laughter. And I just kind of went, hey, let's go to the national map.
Let's just change real quick.
And we went to the national map and stuff, and we do the break in the middle, and everybody's going, and he's going, what?
I think I would have done one of these. I would have been looking over here. I would have looked right into the camera, and I would have just went, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I was in Eastern Idaho. I don't know that, you know, but anyway, it was funny because afterwards he was in the hallway and he pulled me aside and he says, what was so funny? And I had to explain to him, he was a lovely Mormon bishop. And I had to explain
I don't get
what it was he said and why it was probably a little bit inappropriate. But
wow,
you know, that's what I love about television, is that you get stuff thrown at you and you just keep going, you know, and that's such a great talent. Today I was I was talking about CNW to the COM 201 crowd, and I had a lovely PowerPoint, and it's supposed to have video, and the video played, but the audio, you couldn't hear the audio in the room. You could hear the audio online, but you couldn't hear the audio in the room. So people come in and they're trying to fix it. And it's pretty clear, you know, 2 minutes in, that this isn't going to get fixed. And so in my head, I'm going, okay, how do I salvage this? You know, what do I do to keep going without it looking like I'm apologizing for what didn't work? You know, you just move forward and say, you know what, that's not going to work. Let me tell you this. And you just move forward all the time. And I think that's an amazing skill, you know, just a life skill that, you know, if you're in a job interview and somebody throws a question at you and you just go, Well, you can't stand there. You can't sit there and go, holy hell, where'd that question come from? You've got to answer it. And so I think it teaches you to, push that aside. We'll deal with that later. Let's focus on this now.
Right.
Wow, that's a really good point. I don't think I've ever heard it phrased that way. That makes me honestly a lot more excited to take the class.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Let's work through some obstacles here. That sounds fun.
Well, and yeah, a lot of people have problems with being on camera and that kind of stuff. Well, you can do a story. You can do a story without being on camera.
Voiceovers.
But being on camera, it's not an ego thing. It's this is the best way to tell the story kind of thing. The best way I can explain my go-to story was there was a fire district that they didn't have a building for their fire truck. It was out in a rural area, and it was a diesel fire truck. So in the winter, if they got a fire call, they had to go out to the field, start the diesel engine, and you guys know about diesel engines, you have to let them warm up first, and they couldn't leave water in the tank because the water would freeze. So they would have to wait for the diesel to warm up and then come out to the hydrant, fill it up, and then go out to the fire. And so they were looking for a bond to help pay for a building. Well, they weren't nice enough to have a fire for me when I was there covering the story. That would have been really nice. And then I could have shown what happens, but they didn't. So I went and stood next to the truck, and I said, if they get a fire call, they have to come out here and start this diesel truck. It's going to take about 2 minutes for it to warm up before they can even move it. Then they head downtown, and I walked out of camera, and then it was next to the fire hydrant, and I walked in the frame again and said, they pull up to a fire hydrant, hook it up, and it's going to take 6.5 minutes to fill that tank. And so 12.5 minutes later, after getting the call, they're headed out on the fire. Okay. That wasn't me trying to get my face on camera. It was me trying to explain a complicated situation.
I thought you were going to tell us you went and started a fire somewhere so that you could actually get a shot of them.
No, I didn't have time, and I didn't bring my matches. So
not this time.
Yeah.
Well, Terri, we cannot thank you enough for coming on and sharing, the life that is Terri, of being a professor, but also just being a cool human being in general.
Yes.
Oh, well, thank you.
Really appreciate it. This is the kind of stuff that we like to highlight whenever we do this podcast. These are the fun ones where you just get to talk to people and just learn more about them and kind of get to pick their brain about things like classes that they don't want to take. But
maybe hesitant to take is
yeah, no, you guys are going to come in and you're going to be fabulous. I can guarantee you that.
We're a package deal, so
we are.
That's even better. That's even better.
Yeah.
So
I actually do look forward to it, and it's either going to be next quarter or spring quarter. So
okay. Well, I'll look forward to seeing both of you there.
You've got us narrowed down to those two options.
Yeah.
Well, I prefer you to show up winter quarter and then show up again in spring. And I could really see both of you thriving.
I would hope so. I mean, that's the goal.
Yeah.
But what if we just fail? What if we just fail over and over again?
Oh my gosh. I've had idiots take this class and they haven't failed. So, we
got a bar to,
bar's not that.
Well, finds a nut every now and then.
To pass, you have to show up, turn something in every week, and show improvement every week. That's what we're looking for.
That's what I do. That's football players that I coach who are failing their high school classes. And I'm just like, all you have to do is turn something in. It's not that hard. Just try a little bit.
Yeah, that's it. You just have to turn something in. If you don't turn something in, I'm going to have a problem with you. Management's going to have a problem with you. And that's the thing too, is that, when you turn in a paper for me, like in another class, only you and I know how well you did.
Yeah.
you know, and you could have done fabulous. I tell you, you're fabulous. You could have done crappy. I'll tell you in a nice way, you did crappy. But it's only you and I that know it. But in CNW and the Observer, you know, those kind of things, if you don't turn in your story, it's not just me that knows about it. It's your editor, your producer, your, you know, the guy sitting next to you, you know, everybody knows it. And so there's a lot of accountability
Right.
That's good.
Well,
that goes with it.
We do.
Yeah, and then maybe
I know he
we'll
does.
have you back on, and we can do a post evaluation show.
Yeah, we can do our live
Oh, I think that would be awesome.
our live evaluations on
Yeah.
the show. And I want you to read verbatim what you actually wrote down for our evaluations out loud.
Okay.
And then we can also have people put in their predictions, what they think we're gonna get.
Yeah.
We're gonna bring the student media podcast along with this. So
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I'm all in. So let me say one thing I learned as a mom is if you say you're a cool mom, you are not a cool mom. You are not. You guys know this, right?
Yeah.
So people say I'm a cool prof.
can't do it.
I can't. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much
Thank
for coming
you.
on.
Really appreciate it. And I'm
Hey,
hoping,
no
I
problem.
hope you enjoyed this. It's
I did.
gotta be
Good.
it's fun being the one who's being asked questions sometimes, right?
Yeah.
It is. It's a role reversal, definitely. So
Maybe you and I have one where we just interview each other
Yeah, that'd be good.
whenever we can't find guests.
Mhm.
That's actually probably a good idea.
Yeah, that's good.
That's the
Thank-
worst rated episode. All right, Terry. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I'm glad
Hey,
you
no-
enjoyed it.
Oh,
We'll see you on Monday, the day that this is going to come out.
Mhm.
oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll talk about gag laws.
Yep, we will.
Yeah.
we will.
Podcast.
Right. Oh yes, podcast. I'll let you know.
Yeah, the podcast you're supposed to watch before Monday.
Yep. Everyone's going to hold us accountable to that one too.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.